The first one I'm going to tell you is Rapunzel and the Helicopter Witch. Everybody knows what a helicopter is? Little kids know what a helicopter is? Okay, yeah, it's a plane that with wings on the top rather than on the front, and it hovers over the ground. Once upon a time, there was a man and his wife who dearly wanted to have a child, but in vain. Finally, their prayers were answered, and they're going to have a little baby. Well, one day the wife was looking out the window at the garden of their next-door neighbor, a wicked witch of great might. Now, this wicked witch had a beautiful garden filled with all kinds of delicious, delectable vegetables. And among the vegetables in her garden was a bed of rampion. Now, rampion is a green leafy vegetable, like green leafy lettuce-like vegetable, like spinach or parsley or lettuce, that tastes great in salads. Now, the wife was looking at that bed of rampion, and she began to get a craving for that rampion. You know what craving means? She longed for it, like you long for ice cream or something you really, really like. Well, she had a craving for this rampion that grew in the garden of her next-door neighbor. But she knew that the next-door neighbor, who was not the friendliest of neighbors, would not give her any of that rampion, no matter how nicely she asked for it. And so she began to pine away and grow pale and miserable. And her husband noticed and asked her why. And she said, "Oh, I have such a longing for that rampion that grows in the garden of our next-door neighbor, the wicked witch, that I will surely die if I don't get some to eat." Now, her husband was a baker, the best baker in the land, and he baked all kinds of delectable goodies for his wife, pies and cakes and cookies and all kinds of delectable things, but they would not do. She had to have the phytonutrients that was in the rampion of her next-door neighbor, the wicked witch. Now, do you all know what phytonutrients are? Could anyone tell me what phytonutrients are? They're things that, yeah?
Things that you need to live, like vitamins?
Like vitamins, exactly. They're like vitamins, and they are abundant in green leafy vegetables. And that's what she was craving. Well, her husband dearly loved his wife, and he didn't want to see her die. So when it was very dark at night, he climbed over the wall of the wicked witch next door, and he plucked as much rampion as he could carry, and he stuffed it into bags, and he leaped back over the wall and brought it home for his wife to eat. Well, she made a beautiful rampion salad, but she had so much left over that she could make more stuff with the rampion. She could make rampion soup, and rampion stew, and rampion pot pie, and rampion pudding, and rampion fondue, and chocolate-covered rampion, and rampion ice cream. It's not the 31 flavors you'll find at Baskin & Robbins. But finally, she used up all the rampion, and she began to pine for more. So what did her poor husband do? Climbed over the wall to get some more, right? And he climbed over the wall, and he got as much rampion as he could gather, and he put it over his back, and he was just about to climb over the wall when who should appear before him? The wicked witch, yes. The wicked witch. And here she is. "How dare you climb over the wall into my garden like a common thief and steal my rampion," she said. "Oh, be merciful rather than just," said the man, "for my wife, who was about to have a child, had such a longing for your rampion that she would surely die if she didn't get some to eat." "If it is all as you say," said the wicked witch, "take as much rampion as you like, on one condition: the child that shall come into the world must be given to me." Well, the man agreed, for what else could he do? She was a wicked witch of great might. Well, in due time, the man and his wife had a beautiful baby girl. And just as they were going to have her baptized, who should appear but... Yes, the wicked witch. "Give me what you promised," she said, and she took the child away with her. Now, she named the child Rapunzel, because Rapunzel is another name for rampion. It's the girl's name for Rampion. Now, Rapunzel was the most beautiful child that was ever seen. And when she was 12 years old, the witch put her in a tower in the middle of the forest. There was no way to get into this tower. There was no door, no stairway, no entryway at all. Only a window at the top of the tower. And when the witch wanted to get in, she would call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Now, Rapunzel had a braid that was so long, it went all the way from the top of the tower all the way down to the ground. And the witch would climb up by it. And that's how she got in and out of the tower. The reason the wicked witch kept Rapunzel in the tower was because she didn't want her to be contaminated by the outside world, which the witch found deplorable. That means she didn't like it at all. It was terrible. And that's why she is called the helicopter witch, because she was always hovering over Rapunzel to protect her from the outside world. She didn't let Rapunzel go to school either. She homeschooled her. Do you know what homeschooling is? Yeah, she homeschooled her so that Rapunzel wouldn't be influenced by the other kids and the outside world. She found the outside world deplorable, as I said. She didn't want her to be influenced by it. She was always telling Rapunzel how much better things were when she had been a girl and how terrible they were in the present age, like those dreadful Adam Sandler movies, for example. When Rapunzel was a teenager, the witch, she had to go to high school, right? When you're a teenager, you have to go to high school. And the curriculum was much harder, so the witch needed help in tutoring her pupil. So she got on the computer, and she ordered a homeschooling tutoring program for her pupil. But the witch was no fool. She also got a parental guidance system so that she could monitor Rapunzel's every move on the internet and see what Rapunzel was doing. But Rapunzel was a teenager. And no grown-up, not even one as smart as the Wicked Witch, is any match for a teenager when it comes to computers. And soon Rapunzel was visiting MySpace and Facebook and YouTube, and the Wicked Witch was none the wiser. Well, she met a young man on MySpace named Prince Charming, and one thing led to another. Prince Charming asked her where she lived, and she said she lived in a tower in the forest. He asked her to be more specific. He needed better directions, but she said that's all she knew. Well, Prince Charming was very resourceful. He had a global positioning satellite system. So he hopped on. Yeah, you won't be laughing soon. Wait till you see what happens. So Prince Charming hopped on his Harley-Davidson motorcycle, turned on his GPS, and arrived at the tower just as it was growing dark. But he could find no way in. There was no door. There was no entryway. There was no stairs. There was no way in, no matter how hard he looked. So he sat behind a tree to think about this, and he soon fell asleep. And he was awakened, he fell asleep until the next morning when he was awakened by the sound of the Wicked Witch.